Ooh,
Rayvon, welcome to the
hi.
show, man.
What's up, dude? Thank you. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
dude, I am excited to have this conversation. You're somebody I've known for a really long time. And
Yeah.
there, I often think about how I've been fortunate enough to have people in my life for so long. There's so many adults that I know that are like, I have a new group of friends every 2 years.
Yeah.
And although my circles have changed and grown, there's connections that I've kept forever. And I found that it's really driven individuals who pursue their passions, who live a life that they design themselves. Like these are the
hmm
people that I keep in my life. And you're somebody like that, right? You're somebody who regionally, at least in a number of states in our area, you're the front man for a very, very popular band called Go Go Gadget. You've gone viral on TikTok for being a plant daddy or whatever they call you, like
Yeah.
all these crazy things, man. But why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to my audience, and then we'll break down how you got there.
Um, hey, my name is Rayvon Reed. I go by Rheed on socials and I guess life.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
I know you do that now, but you're
yeah,
Rayvon.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't it honestly doesn't matter. The thing is like I've all right, I'll just start. I'm a Navy vet. And that's why I started going by Reed. I got out of the Navy. I started doing music, honestly, full time, with a boy band that I was with called Odyssey. We did America's Got Talent. Uh, and then we just did tours with like some amazing people. We performed with Flo Rida and Danity Kane and Boys to Men and like just like T-Pain, like the list. It was a really awesome list, and it was a really awesome thing. But that was kind of it kind of wore me out, and then I started doing music locally on a smaller level. Not say smaller level, but we go all over the place with my band Go Go Gadget. With that band, I've gotten the opportunity to also perform with some amazing people, Plain White Tees, T-Pain again, like Carrie Metter. And I've got to work with some awesome companies, Google and WWE, and I'm honestly just blessed to be able to do things that I love full time. Um, and I've been blessed to know a lot of talented people with drive, like you were saying, like we get together and it's like no time has passed, and like yeah, I'm rambling right now, but
No, it's great. And
it's
and it's funny. I'm so glad you brought all that stuff up because I obviously seeing Odyssey and seeing you guys on America's Got Talent, and you guys actually made it far. Like it wasn't like you guys auditioned and that was it. Like you stuck
yeah,
around and you moved forward and you did all these things, and it was really kind of cool to see that evolution of you, right? Like, and there's another person in the YouTube world that was in that group, and he often talks about, we're talking about Chris Denker, like he talks about it on
yeah,
his YouTube channel, and you always have that remembrance of like, oh my gosh, like you guys did some really big things, right? And so as you were
yeah.
going through that in your life, I knew it was always your dream and always these things. Did you realize in the moment, like, holy crap, I'm living my dream right now? Or were you like, next thing, next thing, next thing?
Honestly, it was honestly next thing, because I think that one of our biggest things is we did not like to like stay still. We were always trying to like figure out what's the next step, and we were doing a lot of the stuff on our own. We had management like for the last maybe year and a half of like what we were doing it, but we were doing it for like at least 7 years or so.
Wow.
And that was the thing. Like we would pretend to be our own manager, and we would talk to like all these people. We got to open up for like Elton John, which is like not even our genre of music, but
That's
like
wild.
like we got to do that. And but that was like all us, like just pretending and just faking it. And we were just like we had like a really strong hustle. And I don't think that hustle has ever left me, but it's just changed, and it's just yeah, it's manifested itself differently now.
Yeah, I mean, everything that I feel like I do so much of things that I learned selling knives when I was 19, right? Like I still utilize
Yeah.
those skills. They've just evolved in some way, shape, or form as
Yeah, for
I've
sure.
evolved, right? And
Yeah.
so, when we talk about, I love that you said, we were pretending to be our own manager, like we made up a manager, we got in with Elton John, we did all these things, and you're like the whole faking it until you make it. And
Yeah.
so many people hate that phrase, fake it till you make it.
hmm
And I was like, I don't hate that phrase. Like, I think there's a power in presenting yourself a certain way, don't lie about it, right? Like if you're not a millionaire, don't say I'm a millionaire.
Yeah,
But to
exactly.
carry yourself in a certain way. And actually, Andy Frisella said it the best. I just recently saw a clip and he said, sleeping's really weird. Before you fall asleep, you have to pretend you're asleep already. And he's like, and
Yeah.
so in life, like you have to pretend that you already have that success, because then the work ethic's there already. And
Yeah,
then the
for sure.
results will come later. And that's what you saw with Odyssey, right? Like you were hustling your asses off in order to build this business, this band, and you were able to kind of see that through, right? And you talk about this hustle going through your life and working your ass off still. What are you doing now? Obviously, growing Go Go Gadget. I mean, you guys are busy. I mean, the band has been around a long time. You guys
Yeah,
are
for sure.
busier now than ever. So, what kind of work ethic are you putting into there to build the name on that side?
So, but like you said, Go Go Gadget has been around for a long time. I'm just one of, um, I joined the band in 2016. And I honestly had no idea what I was joining, like with the entity that I was getting into. Because like when after Odyssey, I decided I was like, okay, while I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to still do like the original thing, I'm going to only work in my craft. So I was like, I'm only taking jobs that are, performance based, that are just going to help me hone my skill. So I took dance jobs. I took, hosting jobs where I'm just like hosting a party and like being a party starter, uh and like just singing. I worked on the Spirit of Philadelphia, like where I was doing singing wait staff, like so that's all that I did. And then I came across a band. I won't name the band because I don't know what's happening with that. But I came across a band. It was like a low level, cover band. And I was like, I don't really want to do this. Someone had offered me the audition and I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. And then I ended up being convinced to do it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I ended up picking up that gig. And then maybe like 2 weeks into being in that band, they were like, hey, we're going to this club. We're going to go see this other band called Go Go Gadget. And I was like, okay, cool. That's a funky name. I loved
Yeah.
Inspector Gadget. Let's go see them. So we go to see them. We're at the Pig Pen in Allentown, which is not a place anymore. But I walk into the club and it's packed wall to wall. And I have to stand all the way in the back. And one of the guys in the band, who was the bass player at that time, was up on stage singing Zoot Suit Riot. Like, and I'm like, I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? And people are going nuts. He's playing Zoot Suit Riot, like,
And these people are literally like,
and
like
they're
when
like,
you go to a Go Go Gadget concert, it's insanity. Like
yeah, and like people are
the
just they're pressed up against the stage,
yeah.
and like I was just like, okay, this is weird. And then so that happens, and I think the keyboard player, he starts doing Sugar We're Going Down, and like he's nailing it and killing it. And then the lead singer, his name's Jeff Tomrell, he gets up and he does Hotel Room Service by Pitbull.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, they just covered a broad like genre of music, and people are going fucking nuts. And then the light show was awesome. And I thought to myself, I was like, okay, I didn't know that you could do cover music on this like level.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so what I need to do is I either need to make my band rival that band, or I need to be in that band. And then like 6 years later, I end up joining that band, which was like really cool. I thought I wasn't going to do it until like maybe 10 years, but overachiever here.
Yeah, man. And so it's so funny too, because I remember, I mean, I'm 38 now, and I remember being
Damn.
yeah, dude, it's
Sorry.
creeping up. It's creeping up. I remember being in the mid to low 20s, in my 20s, and going and seeing Go Go Gadget. My friends were like, oh yeah, it's a cover band. And in my head, I was like, who cares? Like, why are you all so excited about this cover band?
Yeah.
And I went and I remember being blown away and having a blast. And like, you guys do such a good job at, you know, interacting with the crowd and keeping it hype. And it is so bizarre because you cover all these different genres of music. And like, I even saw that you guys are doing like a power hour thing, which is like 3 different, we might have passed it. I don't know if we did.
No, we're actually doing that this weekend.
Yeah, so wild, right? Like 3 decades of music over the course of what, an hour and a half or something like that.
Yeah, yep, 90 minutes. Yep.
Which is unbelievable, but you keep people hyped the whole time. So this is the worst transition I've ever done on this podcast, but I want to talk a little bit about, you know, the creative side of what you do, right? A lot of times an artist will be like, well, I don't want to do covers because I can't infuse my own self into these, right? It's not my songs. It's not what I've written. Do you ever battle with that? And how do you, if you do, how do you contend with that inner feeling of like, and that pull of like, I'm a creative, I want to make my own stuff?
Yeah. So when I first joined the band, I actually ended up getting set up with like this guy, this kind of like, he was a life coach. And he had told me one of the things that I kind of already instilled in myself is like, honestly, like anything that I get into, I try to take like pride in. I try to put myself in. And he told me one of the things that I was already doing, but I don't think I was like actually thinking about doing it, as he was like, you know, I know you're doing covers and I know that's not like original, but you can be very original in your covers. And I was like, I don't understand what you mean. He was like, just honestly be an actor, just pretend like this is your song. How would you do this song? Think about the lyrics, think about like the emotion that you want to like get out there. It's like, if you think of this song as something different, then put that emotion in it. You can get people to feel what you feel, honestly, by pretending it's yours. And honestly, that's what I do on stage. I'm like, this isn't Fall Out Boy. This is my song. I wrote this song. You know, this is my song. And that's how I try to give, to just give the material that I'm doing. A lot of this stuff that we do, we try to remix it. We try to, you know, just make it as much of our own as possible. And I think we do a very good job of doing that. There's not a lot of people, not a lot of bands who do what we do, you know, or, you know, not to, you know, toot our own horn, like can do what we do because of the creativity that we put into it.
Yeah, and anybody listening to the show who you have never heard of Go Go Gadget, go look them up, find videos of them on YouTube. Like, it really is mind-blowing what you guys are able to create and the experiences that you create for every single live performance you do, right? Like, it's one of those things where when I host an event, I always think, what experience am I creating? Because that's what people remember.
Yeah.
People remember how they felt, right? And you do that through creating an experience. So as you guys are creating these shows and evolving over time, what is your thought process into like the lineup of the songs? Like, what's the thought process behind them? How do you make sure you're involving the audience? Like, what kind of thought process from an entrepreneurial standpoint goes into that, so you can, every single time you play, you know, you're selling out the venue?
Yeah. So I think one of my biggest things is I love going to shows. So I love going to shows. I honestly love going out to bars, seeing what people are actually into, see what they're actually doing, see what they're, how they're dressing, like just kind of like, you know, just field research, I guess. I guess. I was a patron of music for so long before I actually was like, oh, I want to do this thing. And I remember how that feels still, because I still go out to see shows. I still go out and you know, like I said, I do my research. So I kind of try to sit back and like, okay, if I was in the audience, you know, for me, this is what would be entertaining for me. And I try to just entertain my patron self instead of like trying to please everyone, because I'm like, okay, there's tons of people who like the shit that I like. So I'm just going to try to please the people who like the shit that I like. And
Yeah.
I like a very broad spectrum of music and entertainment. So that's honestly what I do is I try to please the concert going me. Um, so like, if I think like a moment should be high here and then just drop off and have silence, and like I'll figure out where that needs to be in our actual show.
I
And
love that.
yeah, that's honestly how I do it. You know.
Dude, there's so much to learn in from how you approach that.
Mhm.
That's everything in life, right? Like people, I talk to entrepreneurs and podcasters all the time of how do they grow their brands, how do they reach more people, how do they get more clients, and they want to cast this so insanely wide net, and they go, well, who do you serve? Well, I serve everybody. Or
Yeah.
you can even get more specific and go, I serve women entrepreneurs, right? Still too broad, right? For you to go, I'm just trying to serve people who are like me, right? You are your niche. And for you to go, okay, I'm going to pour into
Yeah.
these people that are similar to me, but at the highest level possible. That's how you become a successful entrepreneur. Like literally, like that's exactly how you do it. And so many people miss the
Yeah.
boat, and you're hitting it on so many spectrums. Because obviously, not only that, you have to appease your band, you have
Yeah.
to appease the people you play with. And so there's a juggling act there. Whereas in the entrepreneur world, you have to please your, not only just your clients, but your employees and the people
Yeah.
that are
Oh
working
yeah.
for you. So there's a lot of that going on, right? And I just love that approach. So when you dive into all this stuff, like what type of, are you thinking of this band as like a potential legacy for you? Is this a stepping stone? What's the future prospects for you going forward as far as like, I mean, are we going to see you with gray hair up there with Go Go Gadget? Maybe like a walker? Like, what's the thought process?
I think so. I've always thought that Go Go Gadget would be a great stepping stone. I've honestly branded myself a lot in this band. Um, to like I said, I'm not the original lead singer of this band. The original lead singer is Jeff Tomrell, who now just manages the band and who has created a company where he just creates new bands and new products and just puts them out there, and like he's doing something like amazing. And that has always been my goal as well, is to take something that has built me to a certain plateau and then start building other stuff, which is what I've honestly started to do right now. Um, I don't think I'll be in Go Go Gadget until I'm gray, and
For me, dude,
I
I'm
keep
like a year away from being totally gray. You can't tell
I've
on
got
the
a
Zoom
couple. I've got a
camera.
couple in my beard, which I'm very excited for. People are like, "You want me to pick that for you?" I'm like, "No, leave it alone. I want them."
Yeah, this
But
shows that I've been through some shit, you know?
yes, for sure. But like, yeah, I keep getting to points in the band where I'm like, okay, I've got 2 more years here, and then I'm gonna move on to something else. But like at those times, I had no idea of what that something else would be. Now I actually do. I'm starting a company, and I want to start producing shows, stuff that I can put in theaters. I have 2 projects that I'm working on that I'm not going to say anything about because they're very, very, very early. I'm just working on music right now for those. But if you follow me on social medias, it'll stuff will be out, which I'll give you
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's
so
exciting.
that's the thing that I'm doing now, and I've already started it. So I don't know when my end goal or end date, sorry, end date with GoGo would be, and I would hope that I could keep doing stuff with the band, and maybe help usher in new people to continue that. But my biggest thing is yes, GoGo Gadget has been a massive learning experience and a stepping stone, and something that I can leave. I can leave to someone else, and they can continue and continue. Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely a stepping stone.
I think that idea of Go Go Gadget, how like the band has evolved and people are changing, like I love that. Like I think it's
Yeah.
such a cool thing, and like you guys kind of continuously, for lack of a better term, stay hip for the next generation of
Yeah.
people. Like remember, like I was I used to be the person that you guys catered to. You now cater to people 10 years younger than me, right? Obviously, you play to a wide variety. You guys do weddings and all that kind of stuff too. But it's really like, how do we continue to evolve? And the greatest way to do that is, hey, when it's my time to go, we'll make sure we usher in the next person, and everything gets handed off in the right way. I mean, you already have another singer in the group that is young. And so, kind of taking the reins next whenever you're ready to move on, which I love that model, right? So what would you say to somebody, because you've now created multiple steps of success in the music industry, from Odyssey to different things, and then now obviously Go Go Gadget. What would you say to somebody trying to break in? Because very, very few people can make a decent living in music, and you've now done it for 15 years plus. So how can somebody, what are some tips or tricks that you tell somebody, say, hey, here's how you get your foot in the door. Here's how you take that next step.
That's a great question. I think for me, what I did was I kind of gave myself no choice. Like I said, I decided that I was only going to do my craft. Especially when I knew that that's what I want to do. And like, I didn't go and just be like, okay, cool, I'm just doing original stuff and that's the only way. I just try to, hone my craft. So like I said, I did the Spirit of Philadelphia. I would take dance jobs and, all that stuff. And I think all of it helped me figure out where I needed to be, because where I thought I wanted to be ended up changing from where, like, to where I am now. And I love where I am now. And I don't think that if I would have continued, and like, I love original music, and I will probably keep making original music, but I think that I thought I really, really, really wanted to do original music, when honestly, I just wanted to entertain. I wanted to be a part of music and be able to make a living doing that. And I didn't figure that out until like way, way later. Yeah. So I would say to anyone, just like, give yourself no choice, work in your craft, but also realize that, if you do have a 9 to 5, you have to put the same amount of time into your craft that you're doing your 9 to 5. That means, like, okay, you might not get a bunch of sleep. You might not be able to, like, hang out with friends every weekend. You might have to go do this open mic or go host this party if you're trying to get better on the microphone. Like, there's so much stuff that you can do to hone your craft. And like, I have friends now. I have a friend who's he's like an amateur professional wrestler, and he has his 9 to 5, and then every single weekend he is destroying his body in wrestling matches. And his ultimate goal is to get that contract. WWE. He's been on WWE before, but no contract. But he's like working. He's like grinding. So he's like doing his office job. He's got his suit on, and then he goes and he play fights in his underwear like every weekend. So
dude, I love that. And so it's so funny, obviously, being a wrestling fan, that there's so many stories of people like that, right? And the ones who do make it are the ones that, like, yeah, like, I had to go grind. I had to go beat myself up for $20 a night of wrestling in an arena with 20 people staring at me. Like, and all those stories of, they don't even get paid sometimes, right? Like, sometimes they're paying to get in the ring and get that
it's
exposure.
Like, here's some pizza and a beer.
Yeah, man, it's wild. And I've been to some real shit wrestling shows, and I'm just like, why am I here? Like, one of those. I have a good friend. His name's Chris Van Vliet. He has a YouTube channel where he interviews wrestlers, and it's huge. And he got brought in to come to Hamburg, and like, he was an announcer / signing autographs at like this real bad wrestling show. And so I went and hung out with him. I was like, this is awful. Just watching some of these guys, right? Because you don't have the production value at the high level, as we're going off on tangents about professional wrestling. But I used to hide the fact that I was a wrestling fan. And then I started getting some wrestlers on my show, like Jinder and DDP and those guys. And so I was like, I just got to let people know I'm a huge fan at this point. So
we just Dude, your DDP episode was amazing. I've listened to it twice.
That's awesome, dude. He's an incredible human being, and he gave me DDP yoga for free, like, and sent me all this gear and stuff, like heart rate monitors and yoga mats and stuff like that. It was really, really cool to experience that, and the fact that he stood up, dude, 60 something years old, stood up and like held his foot up in the air, like on camera. Like, go watch it on YouTube at some point. I don't know when he did it, but like literally stands up, steps away from the camera, lifts his foot up over his head. I'm like, bro. After he beats his body up his whole life, it's just wild. But going back to what we were talking about before wrestling, the one thing I hear you saying is I've always kind of known, right? You had this vision of what you wanted, and when we get real specific, you had the vision of being in Go Go Gadget, and then 6 years later it happened, right? It wasn't by accident, right? And so, how important, and visualization is a non-negotiable for me every single day. How important is visualization for you in everything that you're creating going forward? As you said, you're working on new projects.
Yeah. Visualization is, I think, is very, very important. If you can't see yourself there, then you're never getting there. Like, I think that's been a drive for me, is because any situation that that I can't see myself in, I'm like, okay, well, that's not worth my time. Like, even with with doing original music, I was like, people love the music that we're putting out. I can see them buying it, I can see them coming to shows, so I put that energy into that. The projects that I'm working on now, I'm like, I love these type of shows that I'm trying to make right now. And I was like, I could 100% have a show in Vegas right now. No, I could put this show in Vegas. And I'm like, yeah, I see that. That's happening. Like, I even visualize my whole show. I have the whole thing in my brain, and I just get it out. I have like a little board, and I do some brain mapping, and it's I don't recommend anyone ever try to live in my brain, especially while I'm thinking about like my shows and stuff. But like, I visualize all that stuff, and it gets me very excited about it. I can pretty much sit down with anyone and explain what I'm trying to do. And I look up, and they're like, just like big smile. And they're like, I see everything that you just, told to me. So I think just visualization is key. You need that. And like I said, if you can't see yourself there, you can't see the end result, then fucking move on to something else that you can actually see. And if it's, I see myself as the manager or regional manager of a paper company, then fucking go for it. Yeah. So yeah.
I love
Thumbs
it,
up
man.
on that.
No, it's true. Like, and I say all the time, the reason I have daily visualization practices is because being an entrepreneur at times is hard, right? Like, building a music business is hard. Like, doing these things are hard, but when you can truly visualize yourself in the end goal, right? Like, creating the success that you wanted, it then the hard becomes exciting, right? Like, knowing like, I can do this work every single day to build out to where I want to go. Like, you talk about this vision of yourself. What you're talking about is years away, but you feel the excitement now, right?
Oh, for sure.
You know that you're going to plan through these years to go ahead and create that and get that done. And I absolutely love that. So I want to ask you a question that I ask every single guest on the show. Yeah. It's a 2-part question. First part is, what is your definition of success? The second part is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Man, no. All right. So I'm going to tell a really quick story. So a couple weeks ago, I had a panic attack that was so bad that I had to be rushed to the ER. And in that, I got all the symptoms of a heart attack. All right. So heart's pounding. I got palpitations. My arm is numb. I'm still I'm like with my therapist trying to figure out what the hell triggered this. But so my neighbor, he rushed me to the ER because I just couldn't get a hold of anything. My vision was going. Wow. And as I am going to the ER, there was a point where I got very calm, like in my brain, not in my body. My body was still going freaking nuts. And in my brain, I thought about all the stuff that I've done up to this point. And I felt good about it. And I was like, I am so happy with the way that my life has gone, you know, in my career and my life and just my growth and everything like that. So I would say that if you can look at your life, regardless of what you're doing, and be happy with it, be happy with the things you've done, be happy with the relationships that you've cultivated, I think that is success. Um, yeah, I think that being able to just be happy with where you are at present. I think that is success. And I think that's regardless of where your career is and where your life is. Of course, you can always elevate. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to elevate. But every moment, I'm trying to be happy in every moment. Like, did I do something today that was amazing? That's just going to add to that level of happiness, that level of success that I have, you know, made for myself. So I think that's it. And as far as what I do every day is, so I have tons of hobbies. And what I try to do is I always try to work every day. I try to do something that adds to what I'm doing. And also I try to give myself over to my hobbies, to the things that make me happy, because I believe in a balance. So I actually have a list in like a little journal, a little book that I have all of my mastery and pleasure hobbies. And I try to do at least once a day, something that gives me pleasure and something that gives me mastery. So if I'm drawing, that's kind of both. I'm working on a skill. I love to draw. I love photography. So I have a journal, and every day I look at that journal and I'm like, okay, take a picture of something that is ugly and make it beautiful. And I just try to do stuff like that. Like, I'm working on skills, and I just try to do that, mastery and pleasure every day. And it spills over into everything that I do for my career.
Dude, love it, man. I absolutely love that. And so I wrap up every single interview with the same question, but before we get there, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they follow you? Where can they learn more about what you're putting out? What's all the good stuff?
You can follow me on all social medias. It's This Is Rheed, and that's Rheed is spelled Rheed. So that's like all across the board. This is Rheed. I have my band, Go Go Gadget, and that's Go Go Gadget Band, and Gadget is spelled GADJET. You can find out where we're playing, if we're in your area. Yeah, and that's, I think from those two things, like everything branches off from there. So you'll be able to see once I start putting out stuff about the show. I have a podcast, sort of. You can check that out. I say sort of, like you were on the podcast. I say sort of because, you know, right now, I told you before, like I'm not putting a lot of stress. It's a podcast for fun. Some things happened. I had to slow it down. So every once in a while, there'll be some episodes. It's fun, it's drunken, and it's helpful, to be honest.
Yeah, it is fun. At least at least go listen to the episode with me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
I think
having
yours
a
is
drink,
the last episode,
having fun. And I love you do something where you have friends ask questions like, hey, you say, hey, here's who I'm having on the show. Do you have a question for them?
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool kind of tie into community and having people do that. And it was funny. I was going to do that when you came on the show, just because you did that on your show, and I dropped the ball. That's just the reality. But that was my original idea, because I was like, this is such a smart idea to like have the community come in and ask their questions. But it
Yeah.
was a ton of fun. It was the only podcast I ever had a drink on while I was doing it. So you guys can
Yeah.
go check that out.
I mean,
You
we had
know,
a
and
couple. The
yeah,
podcast is called My Two Fucking Cents.
I love it. Yeah. So go check that out. We'll link it up in the show notes. So you guys just click the link and head over there. But dude, like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same questions. The show is called The Growth Now Movement. That question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Oh man, my biggest moment of growth. That's honestly hard. You should have sent that question over to me before so I could think. Because now I'm honestly gonna pick the most recent. And I think that was during the pandemic, where I think I settled into like a big depression, and it was figuring out how to get out of it and like really taking the time to cater to my own emotions, cater to my own sanity, and really ask for help. I think that's the thing that people really have a hard time doing. Is they think they're supposed to be like, not crazy or whatever. I know that's not a great word to use, but um, they have a hard time asking for help when it comes to their mental state. I don't have a problem with that now, and being vulnerable is a thing that I look forward to. So being vulnerable and asking for help is, I think that was the thing that really got me to where I am today. And I did a lot of growth within that time, going to therapy and really trying to be emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, man. And talk about the pandemic changing somebody's life. Like,
Oh yeah.
obviously it impacted my business, but it impacted 100% of your business.
Oh
Like,
yeah. There was no business.
yeah, like that's just, I couldn't even imagine. And that's the moments in life that kind of forge individuals into the person they're supposed to be, right? Like
Yeah.
adversity is a gift as long as you can embrace it as such.
No, sure. Hell
And so
yes.
I imagine during that time it was a lot of stress, but also a lot of growth. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing
Yeah,
your
man.
story and your journey, dude. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again in the future, but this was
Oh
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you.